If you had the dream of moving to Alaska and then your husband is killed in a tragic car accident, would you still go?
It's official. We booked our ferry from Bellingham, Washington to Haines, Alaska. This move, this adventure,
it's happening.
It's happening, you guys. It is the biggest next chapter of our lives.
While Ryan was on his way to work, he wrapped his truck around a tree. A lot of people have been asking me what are my plans in regards to Alaska. It was our dream to own a piece of land and build it from the ground up. But it wasn't just our dream, it was my dream. So I'm still doing it.
So this is my property, roughly 10 acres on the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska.
Today I want you to meet Caitlyn and share her incredible story of resilience and how she's building this off-grid homestead in Alaska all by herself. I think you'll be just as inspired as I was.
This trail, I've done a lot of work to this. This was all wetland before. Collected a bunch of logs and I laid out corduroy, kind of like they do in the old days. I really haven't had the time to put into this road like I would like this year. This section right up here still needs a little bit of babying. This is about where my property starts, right here at this tree. And I just need to put a ditch on the downhill side. You can see I put in the ditch on the uphill side here. But the road surface is still holding a lot of water. This section here that we're standing in now, this was originally all deadfall. I mean, if you look at all of the areas surrounding us, you can see what this looked like before. I've had to put a lot of work into this to get to this point. The biggest thing I think, the smartest move I made was I hired a forestry mulcher to come in and clear this build site for me, so that I'd have a base to start building the cabin. And I've been actively working on the build since, I want to say, late April, and it's now August. Should we go chronologically through what I've built here? Okay. One of the hardest things about being in this location is the access. You saw on the way in, I cannot get a vehicle back here. So everything that is on the property has either been brought in by a snow machine, behind my ATV, or for some of the particularly heavy stuff, I've had a neighbor help me out with his excavator. But as far as building materials and lumber, I figured that the best avenue for me was going to be to use what I already have here. And I am wealthy in timber. I mean, for the Kenai Peninsula, these are some of the biggest trees I've ever seen. So I made the investment and I bought myself a Woodland Mills sawmill. And I've been milling all of my own lumber for this project. And I have to say, I think that sawmill is definitely paid for itself at this point. It's one of my most important tools up here, and I'm going to be able to use it for a lot of years to come. Yeah, here's what the process looks like for me. Is I will drop a tree and then start limbing the tree. That usually takes me a half a day. These are not small trees. I think my smaller trees are in the area of 60 foot. And my larger trees are about 85 foot. Once I have the tree limbed, then I have to remove all the limbs and stack them. And earlier this year, I was doing quite a bit of burning, and that was a whole day just to burn the brush. In the summer, it's not really safe to burn now, so I'm just building brush piles. But then I have a tree that is 85 feet that I cannot move. So I've been cutting that into 10-foot sections. I'm using primarily 8-foot lumber, but that gives me a little bit of space to trim the log down and square it off when I'm done with it. So then these 10-foot sections, depending on the width of the log, weigh anywhere from 300 pounds to 1,000 pounds. I would say half of them I've been able to move with my ATV. I've cut down this summer probably 20 trees on this property. So that's been a significant amount of my time and effort, is just in making my lumber. But for the trees that I haven't been able to move with my ATV, that's where my neighbor has been super helpful, coming up and stacking these logs for me. And he can move 10 logs in 2 hours, whereas for me that would be 2 days. From that point, I have a stack here ready to mill, and I spend the next week probably running wood through the sawmill to make my lumber. I still need to build my porch. I need to build a water room. I need to build a woodshed, and that's all just in this area. I still have 10 acres to develop, so this is going to be a lifelong project, but that's a tool that I'm really glad to have.
Doing all this alone is not the easiest, but I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm forcing myself to learn things that, I wouldn't have pushed myself to learn before. I wish I knew more than I do, but I can definitely take a carburetor apart and put it back together, so that's something.
The tool shed here, actually, this was built by me and Ryan. This was the very first structure that we ever had on the property, and it was a nightmare to put up. I don't know if you can get in here, Brooke, and see what the foundation is, but it's actually built on old ATV tires and pallets. At the time, that was all we could get in here. We didn't even have our ATV yet. We rolled these things up the hill. And once we finally had it assembled, we were ready to get dry and get out of the weather, and we headed back down to where we were camping, and our tent had collapsed. And that was 2 summers ago. We actually slept in this shed. This was our very first home on the property, if you think of it. But yeah, let me show you the inside. Yeah, I mean, you need a place to put your things. So that was the very first structure. That was the only thing that I had up here when I started this spring. But I realized that first and foremost, one of the most important things is I needed an outhouse. So this thing, believe it or not, actually had to be built twice. I had all the framing up, I had the walls up, and actually this clear roofing, Brooke, I'm pretty sure I got this idea from you.
You cannot go wrong.
Yeah, I just love that it lets in so much light. I had my neighbor come up and move a couple logs with his excavator, and one day he swung the bucket and hit the side of it, and the whole thing went over. At that point, that was when I put up this angle bracing, because it needed just a little bit of extra support, but it's not going anywhere now. Yeah, as for the hole, I dug it by hand. You can't beat the view from here. I think that's just the best part. Could not quite start working on the cabin yet because the ground was still frozen and I needed to set my posts. So the next logical step for me was to start thinking about my solar and my power. So I built this structure here for my solar panels. They have not yet been mounted. This is going to be coming soon. As soon as I get the cabin dried in, the next steps are wood stove, water, and power. Putting this together by myself was just like with anything. It was a challenge. At the time, I didn't have a ladder. What I did was I had to back my ATV up in here and stand on the back of the ATV just to mount these posts up top. Probably not OSHA approved, but I have to do what I have to do to be able to do this work by myself. It's going to be an awful lot of fun getting them up on this structure by myself. But just like with everything, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. I may not know what that way is yet, but I'm going to figure it out when I do. So these are 370 watt panels, and right now I have 4 of them. That's going to get me started. I bought these through a company called Sun Gold Power, and the nice thing for me, you guys, I'm not very electrically minded. I've never been able to wrap my head around electricity. This all came as a kit. So I was able to get the panels, the inverter, the battery, and everything is going to be very plug and play for me, which is kind of what I need. This is going to be all of my power for the property. I'll have to supplement with generator power in the winter time. In the winter time, our days are significantly shorter, but not as short as most of Alaska. I'm at the very southern tip of the Kenai Peninsula, and I would say our shortest days of the year are in February. The sun comes up around 10 a.m. and it sets about 4 p.m. So I will still be able to pull some solar power. it may just not be quite enough. Temperature wise here, there's maybe a week or two that get in the sub-zero temperatures, but for the most part it stays in the 10 to 20 degree range here, which is a lot better than say Fairbanks or Delta Junction or a lot of the places in Alaska. But during the summer I've had all the sun that I can hope for. I've been living entirely off of solar all summer long using my little Jackery 1500, and temperature wise in the summer it doesn't get too hot here. It's a warm day is 60 degrees.
As you can see by now, Caitlyn is not one to let obstacles stand in her way, and is single-handedly pulling off this off-grid cabin build in Alaska all by herself. I also want to mention Caitlyn has a YouTube channel, Wild Woman Off Grid. So when this video ends, go check out her channel and throw her some support. I can't wait to see her channel blow up.
Oh, I love your chairs.
I thought you would. This felt like a Brooke Whipple style.
Yes, totally.
What we're sitting in right now is going to be my living room. And it'll extend about halfway across the cabin. Right here, I'm calling this the catwalk between the two lofts.
Yeah, I love it.
One of the things with a place this size that's going to be paramount is storage. The purpose of the catwalk is so that I can access both lofts without having to build two staircases.
Yeah. That is just the most exciting thing, is to envision.
Yeah.
I mean, there is so much work. You've done so much work. I'm so impressed.
Yeah. I can't wait to, like I said, take what's in my mind and make it real so that other people can see it too. But even as it's becoming real, I don't think I envision loving it as much as I do.
Caitlyn told me after Ryan's death, she went through a phase where she wasn't afraid of anything, because the worst thing that could have ever happened already happened. So what was there to be afraid of? This homestead has given her a path forward and a way to realize a dream that is still alive and well within her.
He was so excited for this. We're gonna sell almost everything that we owned. We had given notice at our jobs. Everything was happening.
I can't give you enough credit for not only just what you're doing here, but what you've been through, and the perseverance. It's really inspiring.
The biggest compliment people like to give me is to tell me that, oh, you're so strong, you're so strong. I never wanted to have to be this strong. Might as well go out and make some kind of a life for yourself, because you only get one life.
That's enough talking, you guys. I got a lot of work to do. Wish me luck. Getting this rafter up on the roof by myself? Yeah, it's gonna be a chore. All right.
The next time you think to yourself, nah, I can't do that, I want you to remember Caitlyn, and maybe come back and watch this video.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I cannot tell you how good it feels to have the roof done.
And you're super inspiring. Guys, go support her channel. I'll put the link below.
Get outside and get happy.
That's right. This girl in the woods. She gone.
She gone.
You have to take advantage of the years that you have, you guys. You have to do something outside of your comfort zone that is absolutely crazy and insane to try to make a better life for yourselves, because if you don't, you'll regret it for the rest of your lives.